just a couple of quick announcements. Don't want to take up all of the time this morning, but on June 8th, we have a work day scheduled. We have some mulch that needs to be spread around, some painting, some other projects that need to be done. That starts at 9 o'clock on June 8th. If you can come out and help us, we would greatly appreciate it. If for some reason you can't do it on that day, but you say, hey, if there's a job or something I could do, let us know. We can tap you in maybe on another day. Also, there are blue signs all around the doors, and I know I announced it last week. Starting next Sunday, we're going to be going to our summer schedule. This is kind of a new thing. We've never done this before. A motion was made in council, and council discussed it. And we know that maybe this isn't something that everybody shares the same opinion on. And yet my prayer and my hope is that we as a church can unite in making this successful. But I know from my perspective that often it's kind of depressing a little bit because I know how many people are busy over the summer, and it's a struggle to be here. And my challenge to all of you is let's give God that 1 hour, and then you've got the rest of your day on Sunday. So our services next Sunday will be starting at 10 a.m. We will run from 10 to 11. We will not be having meet and greet, but please come and join us for that hour of just giving God that time, that break in our summer weekend, and just focusing on God, okay? And also, I know we will not be having meet and greet. However, on June 15th, which is Father's Day, at 8:30 in the morning, we will be having our Father's Day breakfast. And now that is not just for fathers, but that is for all. All are welcome, but we ask that you come out and join us for that time of celebrating our dads. This morning, as we continue in a song of worship, our ushers are going to be taking up our morning offering.
Blessed are those who run to him, who place their hope and confidence in Jesus. He won't forsake them. Blessed are those who seek his face, who bend their knee and fix their gaze on Jesus. They won't be shaken. Come on and praise the Lord with me. Sing if
who've already accomplished so much, and yet as they look to their future, God, today I just pray that you will be over all of this service. Lord, may it truly bring you glory, honor, and praise. God, in your holy and precious name I pray. Amen. I promise I won't be long, but today we come together to recognize 4 graduates who are part of this church family. Over the years, I know many of you, I've only had a few of those years, but many of you have watched them grow and mature in so many ways. And now they are about to embark on a new journey, a new chapter of life. As our graduates step into this next chapter of life, we all know this will not be their last, but this is just the beginning of many, many new chapters. At this time, Howard and Kathy are going to come and present our graduates.
Carson Mitchell Howard. Parents Seth and Heather Howard. Carson is a graduate from Newton Falls High School. He is a 2-year letterman in basketball and a 1-year letterman in football. His church activities was a youth group and ushering in the church. His future is undecided at this time.
Kennedy Howard. Parents Seth and Heather Howard. She is a graduate of Newton Falls High School. She graduated with the honor of valedictorian and also honors. She participated in National Honor Society President, Senior Class President, E-Club President, SADD SAD Representative, Yearbook Editor, Varsity Basketball Letter for 4 years, Varsity Golf Letter 4 years, Ohio Buckeye Girls State Delegate, Presidential Award 4 years, Community Service Award, and Ambassador. She had 342 hours of community service. Honor and Merit 4 years, Serve Ohio Community Service 4 years, 20 under 20 top 5 finalists, College Credit Plus President's List. Sorry, couldn't use the writing. At church, she was a student leader for Northeast Ohio. Scholarships that she received: Newton Falls Ministerial Association, American Legion Post 236, Gary Cadle Memorial, Brandeberry and Donley Family and Jean Zorn, and Buckeye Academic Scholarship. Her future plans are to attend The Ohio State University, to major in health science, minor in anatomy, to earn a doctorate in physical therapy.
Boy, was I glad I didn't get that one. Carter William Howard. Parents are Seth and Heather Howard also. Carter is a graduate from Newton Falls High School. Carter's participation in school was FAA, which is Future Promise of America. I wasn't sure on that one. And 2-year letterman in golf. Carter's futures are working in the oil and gas industry, along with landscaping, and a desire to work with youth.
Lily Sate. Parents Jessica and Christopher Sate. Also a graduate of Newton Falls graduated as valedictorian and with honors. She participated in these activities at school: National Honor Society, Key Club, SAD, Pickleball Club, 4-year letter winner in volleyball and basketball, 2-year letterman in track. She won the Silver Key Award in Scholastic Art Show. She was nominated for Player of the Year. She played in 3 All-Star volleyball games and 4 All-Star basketball games. She had 182 hours of community service. At church, she volunteered to help in the food pantry and the nursery. Scholarships that she received: the Don Mosier Memorial Scholarship, the Gary Cadle Memorial Scholarship, the Newton Falls Ministerial Association Scholarship, Brandon Berry, AMVETS Post 112, Newton Falls Athletic Boosters, and the Ryan Mattis Scholarship. Her future plans are to attend Penn State University, Salem for radiology.
Today, I know that there have already been several opportunities where they have come together to recognize the achievements of these young people. And today we've had the honor of recognizing their achievements as well. But more importantly, today I want us to all unite in praying for them, as we know their next steps will be challenging, more challenging than maybe they anticipate. They will have a lot of decisions to make, and our prayer needs to be that they look to God in those decisions. So if you will stand as we unite in prayer for them. God, this morning I come to you seeking your face, seeking your help, that, Lord, you will reach out to each one of these graduates, Lord, and that you will give them your guiding hand, your instruction. But, Lord, more than anything, I pray that each one of them, Lord, will learn to look to you, to depend on you, to seek your counsel first. Lord, there are many things that may pull at them. Lord, we know that there is an enemy that wants to destroy them, and God, I pray your hedge of protection about them. God, I just pray that the success that they try to succeed to bring into their lives, that God, it'll be the success you want for them. Maybe not what they think, but that God, they will know that what you want, your will, your way is best in their lives. And so, God, I just pray that you will guide and direct each one of them, and God, I just pray that they will learn to look to you. So, God, I thank you for all that they've accomplished. Lord, I thank you for already working in and through their lives. And God, I pray that you would continue to do so. And Lord, I just pray that first and foremost, whatever they pursue, that God, you will be number one in their lives. So, Lord, we just pray that you will bless them, that you will strengthen them, that you will help them when they are weak, when they're unsure, and God, that you will just put your touch on their lives. So, Lord, we thank you and we praise you for all that you do. And Lord, in your holy and precious name I pray. Amen. You may be seated. Well, at this time, I've asked Seth and Heather, as if they haven't already been up here long enough, considering, they're overachievers, and so one other graduate, and then 3 are all theirs. Today, though, we want to come together and recognize Seth and Heather. As many of you know, Heather has gone through the modules towards ministry, and today will be their last Sunday as youth leaders. They have been and have served as youth leaders in this church for over 20 years. Now, I personally find that hard to believe because I'm pretty sure you're both barely over 30. So, it's they must have started really young, But I know that they are about to begin the next chapter of their lives as well. I want to thank them for the years, the many hard years, where they have dedicated their time and their heart to these children, for the love that they've shared with them, because this is a labor of love. I thank them for the years of hard work, and I thank them for all of the headaches I'm sure they endured along it. We love our youth, but you can create a headache every once in a while. But I most of all want to thank them for the unconditional love they showed the kids over the years, because they didn't judge, they didn't criticize. Some of it was tough love, which was needed. And as a parent, I was pretty confident that my son wasn't going to get into huge trouble. Not with Seth around. It wasn't happening. So I appreciated that. Thank you. Thank you. But we thank them for that unconditional love. But I know that today is unique, because today we not only watching them take every single one of their kids now, leaving the nest, graduating, moving on, but for them today also begins a new chapter in their lives. And as I mentioned earlier to our youth, this is just the beginning of many chapters. And, barely over 30, they're starting yet another new chapter. And so today, we want to do the same that we did for our youth. We want to recognize them for those years of service that they've dedicated here. But we also want to pray for them for whatever God has in this next chapter. So before I pray, this is a gift from the church for both of you. And if you don't mind standing one more time as we unite in prayer. God, we come together and we once again ask for your help and your guidance. Lord, as Seth and Heather, Lord, are entering a new chapter, a new journey, a new page in their book of life. God, I just pray that they will once again look to you for guidance and for direction. God, I pray that you will give them wisdom. God, I pray that you will give them strength. God, I pray that they will maybe at this stage in their lives learn a whole another level of leaning on you and trusting in you. But God, I also want to thank you for the way that you have used them in this church over the last many years. And Lord, I thank you for their ministry. But God, it does not end here. I pray, dear Lord, that you will take them from this place and you will continue to use them in whatever facet you may have. God, I know they don't have all the answers of what is coming next. But Lord, I pray that they will wait on you for your answers, for your direction, for your will, and for your way. And so, God, we thank you once again for the many years, for their heart, for their love for these children. And Lord, we lift them up to you, and we place them in your hands for this next chapter of their life. So, God, we thank you and praise you that you are a God that we can bring these things to you. We thank you for your care, your provision, and your guidance. And so, Lord, we place them in your hands. God, in your holy and precious name, I pray. Amen. Well, this morning, I don't want to end this. I know that I've been talking about strange commands throughout Scripture, and we've been kind of in the Old Testament, and for a moment, I'm going to move to the New Testament, but we're still going to stay on a strange command, because one of the ones that I had on my list as I prepared this sermon series just kind of fit perfectly into this Sunday. And so we're going to move to the New Testament. Don't worry, I've got a couple more in the Old Testament we'll go back to, because the Old Testament, I think, seems to be the most bizarre of them all. But this morning, I want to focus on what we've kind of been focusing on. Maybe it's been a little bit of, the thought of graduation. Maybe these young people, or maybe the slightly older people that are entering a new chapter, a new season of life. And as we consider that new season of life, we want what's best for them. We want them to reach their goals. We want them to be successful. And this morning, I want to talk about another young man in the Bible who was very much this way. I kind of want to lay out a little picture of who this young man was before I get to who he is. And so as we think of this young man in Scripture, he was a very accomplished young man. He had a lot of things to his credit. He was unique in many ways. He was a special young man. Life had granted him many, many, many great opportunities. But it wasn't just that he was a child that had been given many opportunities. He was a young man who was passionate. He was zealous. He was very, very intelligent and very successful. And as the Bible tells us, he showed great potential of what his future may hold. Is this a young man that maybe we would want our children to look at and learn from? with me a moment. I'm not sure if anybody came to your mind as you think in the New Testament of who this young man might be. But he goes by the name of, at this time, Saul. Some of you might instantly go, wait a minute, Saul became Paul. I know this guy. And some of you might be going, remind me. Who is he? Well, if your mind went to Paul, I want you to hold on for a moment. And I want you to back up, and I want us to consider Saul. Because if you know who this guy is, you might be thinking, okay, I'm not sure who you're describing because I don't know that this was really a good guy at this point. But I want us to look at him from a little bit of a different angle, if you can all join me in that endeavor, okay? I want us to look at, we read through your accomplishments, right? We read through all those wonderful things that you graduates have accomplished, and that's great. And I think that Saul deserves the same recognition, okay? So we're going to give it to him. So let's go on that journey, okay? We're not to Paul, we're to Saul, okay? So Saul was born in Tarsus. He was a Benjamite, okay? Meaning he was a Hebrew by lineage. Now, what does that mean? Well, that came with a lot of pride. You were one of God's children. You were one of the 12 tribes of Israel. And this came with a certain pride. This is who you are. Your name mattered. You were from this tribe. That was important to him. So he was already kind of born into this, so he had opportunity. But now it goes like next level, because for Saul, his parents were Pharisees. So now his parents were of this elite group of Jewish leaders who were like the ones who made the laws, and they abided by Moses' law like to the letter. And they were a very elite group of people, and so you can imagine what it was to be one of their children. Because to be one of their a Pharisee's child meant that you were going to be protected and kept away from anything that might take you down the wrong path. You weren't going to be allowed near any of it. Well, that was young Saul's life. He was greatly protected by his very religious, law-abiding parents. So we move on from there because it didn't stop there. Then one of the other things he was known for was he spoke multiple languages. Graduates, how many did you learn in high school? You learn a lot of languages? I'm not seeing a lot of nodding. Paul was known for speaking multiple languages. Very accomplished in that, okay? Another elite thing about Saul, which was very, very unique, was that his family they were also Roman citizens. Now, that was unique because you weren't an Israelite and a Roman citizen, but this also granted him favor among Rome. Because remember, at that time, the Israelites were under bondage of Rome. And yet they had reached that status where they had become Roman citizens, so that gave him protection among Rome. I mean, this guy, he is on the right path. At the age of 13, his parents sent him to study under the rabbi, Gamaliel. I mean, this was like intense study. You guys think that high school was bad? I want you to consider the study this guy went under. He mastered Jewish history. He mastered that as a child. He mastered the Psalms, the works of the prophets. Can you imagine? Yeah. Maybe I should ask Heather. Can you imagine? Did you master that in your 3 years? Let me know if you did. This is what he did through his teen years under the teacher, Gamaliel, okay? And he became a master at dissecting the scriptures. He was even known for having a very unique way of teaching them at a young age that was unique at that time. He quickly went on to become a lawyer. I mean, his credits just keep piling. This guy became a lawyer. And all of history points to the fact that likely at a very young age, he managed to land himself a seat on the Sanhedrin, which was the highest Jewish council at that time. I mean, this young guy had his act together. Are you hearing me? So if your head went to this other guy, I told you, put that out of your mind. I want us to look at the accomplishments of this young man, Saul. And not only that, Saul was known for being zealous for his faith. What does that mean? He was passionate. He stood by it. It meant more to him than anything else, and he was going to defend his faith. This this young man was on top of the world. He had recognition from so many. He had respect from those who were much older than him. History points to the fact that probably that he became a Pharisee and he sat on the Sanhedrin, and he was trained as a Pharisee, sat on the Sanhedrin, all of these things. He was probably the youngest of them all. And he was passionate about it. He was going to make it to the top. This guy had all the potential in the world. There was no stopping him. He had worked hard, and was gaining the respect of everybody. But, sadly, the first time we see Saul in Scripture, the picture is not so pretty. The picture might even make all of us cringe a little bit when we think of who Saul was and what Saul was known for. But the Bible tells us, as Saul shows up in the book of Acts, that there was this other movement that was going on. And there was this group of Jews that were pulling away from their traditions and from the law of Moses, and they were rebelling against the Pharisees, or that's how they saw it, and they were following this Jesus guy. And they were becoming a bit extreme about this, and they needed to be stopped. And Saul decided that, you know what, this needs to end, and I'm going to be the guy that makes this happen. And so the first time we really see Saul show up in Scripture is when a young man by the name of Stephen was preaching and was boldly declaring Jesus. And it says that the group of religious leaders and those standing around became so angry with the words that he said that they drug him out to stone him for those words. But in order for the people to have the permission to do so, they had to have the nod of somebody important, somebody above them who would tell them, this is okay, you may do this. And Scripture tells us that's where we see Saul show up, is when Scripture tells us that they went over and they laid his coat in front of Saul. And Saul gave the nod to take Stephen out and stone him. And it says from there, they wanted to put Stephen to death. And it was Saul who said, go ahead. You see, for all of Saul's achievements, for all of Saul's passion, for everything Saul had achieved, he was at the top. And he was standing behind what he did. And now he had this kind of power. The kind of power that said, I can end this person's life because of what they're saying. And then we pick up in Acts 8:3, and it says this is what Saul was now doing. It says Saul, however, was ravaging the church. He would enter house after house, drag off men and women, and put them in prison. That's what this young man with all these achievements was busy doing. Now I know we might all of a sudden shudder a little bit. We might all of a sudden want to criticize, but wait a minute. Do you remember that list of achievements? This young man had worked hard. And before we criticize too much, okay, just walk with me here a minute. Before we criticize too much, Saul too much, what had Saul really done wrong? In his head, absolutely nothing. He was doing what he believed was the right thing to do. He believed that this group of people were way off base, they were causing problems, they were speaking against God, and they needed to be stopped. And he was the one who was going to do it. And you know what? He saw opportunity, he was passionate, he was zealous for his faith, and he wasn't afraid to go get it done. And you know what? He couldn't have done it without the approval of all of the other religious leaders saying, go ahead, here's your mission. I think the story, in a sense, should cause each and every one of us to step aside and say, you know what? Maybe I need to put myself in Saul's shoes just for a minute. Because you know what? What would we all do? When we've worked hard, when we've fought for something, when we have these goals and we're looking for success and we're trying to achieve this and we feel like we're on the right path and we feel like we're doing the right thing and everything looks good and everything is aligning and this has got to be the path I'm meant to be on. Everybody's behind me. Everybody's supporting me. My parents are proud of me. The other, my teacher is proud of me. I'm sitting on the Sanhedrin. Like I have reached the top. And now I'm going to be the guy that stops what's happening, what's so wrong. In his mind, no. In many other minds, no, he wasn't. This young man was a very intelligent, successful young man. But God had different plans. And as I read this, we're going to find our command in the middle of it. So it says, now Saul was still breathing threats and murder against the disciples of the Lord. So he went to the high priest and requested letters from him to the synagogues in Damascus, so that if he found any men or women who belonged to the way, meaning those who were following Jesus, any of those disciples of the Lord, any of those who were in the way, these letters would grant him the right to bring them as prisoners to Jerusalem. Now, do you hear what this says? Saul went to the high priest and asked for these letters. He asked for the permission. He was going through all the right channels. He was doing all the right things. And somebody else gave him these letters. And now here he is on his way to Damascus. He is aiming for this. This is his goal. But his life was about to change. It says, as he traveled and was nearing Damascus, the light from heaven suddenly flashed around him. Falling to the ground, he heard a voice saying to him, Saul, Saul, why are you persecuting me? Who are you, Lord? Saul said. And this is what he heard. I am Jesus, the one you are persecuting. He replied, but get up, go into the city, and you will be told what you must do. It says the men who were traveling with him stood speechless, hearing the sound but seeing no one. So Saul got up from the ground, and though his eyes were open, he could see nothing. So they took him by the hand, and they led him into Damascus. And he was unable to see for 3 days, and did not eat or drink. The command, get up, go into the city, and wait. And wait. Whoa, wait a minute. This guy's on a mission. This guy has plans. I guess those plans were put to a sudden stop, weren't they? Because Jesus stopped him dead in his tracks, dropped him on the ground, and spoke to him. And Jesus' words are so moving. He's saying, Saul, Saul, why are you persecuting me? Why are you doing this to me? There's a whole other message in that alone. And I don't want us to get lost in that, but this is a powerful, powerful, powerful message. Because see, who Saul was really fighting against was Jesus. And often we'll find as Christians that people are fighting against us, but listen, if we're where we are with Jesus, where we need to be with Jesus, he's not fighting against us. They're fighting against Jesus. And Jesus stopped Paul dead in his tracks. And he asked, Saul asked him, he said, who are you? Who are you, Lord? And he says, I am Jesus, the one you're up against. You know, that one who you're fighting, the one who you're killing people over? I'm he. And he says, now get up and go to the city and wait. And wait for my instructions. But Jesus didn't make it easy on him, did he? No. He struck him blind. Stopped him dead in his tracks. Made him completely helpless. Helpless. We have many of you who are on this stage that are all looking at a new chapter in life. You've already accomplished so much. Some of you younger, some of you a little bit older. You've accomplished so much. And how would you like, as you are ready to just go off, and now this next chapter in life, this next goal, this next passion, this next pursuit, God just stops you dead in your tracks and knocks you blind and says, now sit and wait. Are you putting yourself in his shoes yet? Because that's what poor Saul had happened to him. Sit and wait. And it says that in this moment, in this quietness, blind, helpless, nothing he could do. He wasn't eating, he wasn't drinking, he was just sitting there waiting. And waiting on what? The Lord's instructions. Until the Lord came and instructed him on what in the world he was supposed to do. So, it kind of makes you go, why didn't God just instruct him right then and there? Why didn't God just tell him what he wanted him to do? This isn't how God works. sometimes God has to get our attention first. Sometimes God has to get us to slow down and listen. This morning, I want us to consider the importance of waiting. There is great importance in learning to wait. And as I think of Saul, Saul was to sit there and he was to wait for 3 days. I wish I could tell you all that the waiting was a simple number like that. Don't worry, 3 days. I'm going to give you 3 days, and then I'm going to tell you what you're supposed to do. I've learned that's just not how it works. Sometimes the waiting takes a lot longer than 3 days. But there is great importance of learning to wait on God. See, God had a plan for Saul's life, and God was already preparing those next steps. Maybe some of you know the story, and maybe some of you don't. I'm not going to get all the way through there because I really want us to focus on the waiting. But I will tell you that what we won't look at today is that Jesus had already gone and he had spoken to this other man who was over here named Ananias, and he had told him, listen, I've got this guy Saul, and he's waiting over here, and on this day, I want you to go talk to him, and I want you to minister to him, and I want you to teach him, and I want you to start preparing him for the plan I have for his life. That's a whole other story because this guy's killing Christians. I don't want to go to that guy. But God was preparing him already. God had lots of plans for Saul. God planned on changing his name. God planned on giving him a ministry. God planned on 3 years of training for Saul. 3 years of training for him before he even hit that ministry. And as we see the rest of the story of Saul, we can kind of look at that. But I don't want us to consider that. I want us to stop right here. I want us to consider that Jesus' command was, now I want you to go to that city, and I've made you blind, I've made you helpless, and you're just going to sit and you're going to wait. You're going to wait for my instructions. The importance of waiting. Here's the first one. And I say this first because the others are going to be a little bit different. But first, this is the best advice I can give you, okay? Are you all listening? This is the best advice before we get into anything else. Learn to wait and avoid the extreme way Jesus may stop you. When I read through this passage and when I even think back over my own experiences, there is something powerful in learning to wait before Jesus has to just dead stop us right in our tracks and say, what are you doing? Why are you on this path? You know, I've learned, and maybe this isn't the best thing to share with any of you, because you may think, oh, that's our pastor, really? It's true. There are times that I'm waiting on God, and people ask me, well, what is it you feel that God's telling you? I said, I don't know. I'm not asking him. I just don't ask. And they're like, why aren't you asking? I said, because I'm not ready to know. And so that's my out. I'm not asking yet. I know he wants me to do something, and I don't care. Not yet. I don't want to ask. Because to be honest with you, I'm a little afraid sometimes what he's asking. Sometimes I'm afraid to ask, what is it you want me to do next? I might feel it, and I might feel that pressure, and I know that at some point I'm going to have to ask him, or he's just going to say, okay, enough, Jennifer. Listen to me. But you know, the greatest advice I can give you is learn to wait. Learn to ask God for direction. Learn to seek his face before we just run off on our pursuits, run off after our goals and what we think is success, and say, God, this might be how I see it. God, what do you see for me? God, what do you see for my life? God, what do you have in store for me? Because you know what? There are a lot of other voices that speak to us. And some of the biggest ones are ourselves, our own voices that say, you know what? This is what I want to do. These are my passions. This is what I'm good at. And by the way, this is what I'm not good at. And we'll pursue what we think we're good at and not what we're... God might have a whole other plan for your life. And I can speak that because, trust me, the last thing I would have ever thought God would have put me is right here. I don't like being in front of people at all. I say this. People don't believe me, but the people who know me the best know I don't like to be in front of people. I mean, I wanted to elope to get married because I didn't even want a wedding because I had to be in front of people. It's horrible. But when God has a plan, when God has a purpose, it's amazing what God can do with it if we let him. Learn to wait and avoid Jesus saying, whoa. Now, I will say as a slight caveat to that, May we sometimes think we're on the right path and Jesus has to stop us a little bit and say, whoa, 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 wait a minute. Yeah. But listen, when you're seeking God and you're really wanting his will and desiring what he wants, that won't be so bad. Our heart will be in a much better place where we say, okay, I was trying, but okay, God, if you want me over here, it'll be a mindset. But first, if we can learn to wait, avoid those extremes. But now here's some benefits of waiting, the importance. Waiting allows the necessary time to reflect on what we have been doing. Waiting allows us to stop and think, what is all this that's been going on in my life? What are all these things that I've been working towards? And what are all these different steps? You graduates had some big lists there, things you've already achieved. And you may think that this is going towards a certain thing. Heather, maybe the same for you. Really the same for all of us. We may think we're doing this and we're making all these steps, but waiting sometimes helps us to step back and reflect over what are all these things that are going on in my life, and what do they mean, and where are they going towards, and have I been on the right path? Am I thinking clearly? Am I going the right direction? As I keep Saul in mind, can you imagine what went through his mind in those 3 days? As he sat there blind, not eating, not drinking anything, can you imagine what he was thinking back over? Was he thinking about when Stephen was stoned right in front of him? Was he thinking about all of the Christians that he had ripped out of their homes? Or was he going back to, his place of prestige, his great successes, and going, how did I land here? What is going on? You see, we look at this part and we go, this is why Jesus stopped him, because he was doing horrible things. But remember, Saul didn't see it that way. Saul thought he was on the right path. Saul thought he had accomplished so much. And now, what? This voice from Jesus? Like, what is going on? And Saul needed that time to reflect and go, where am I going? What am I pursuing? What am I chasing after? What am I doing? You know what? It doesn't matter how old you are. I'm not just speaking to our graduates or our 30-somethings, or it doesn't matter how old or how young we are. There are times in our lives where we have to stop and we have to reflect on what am I doing and why am I doing it? Why? We're never too old to question that. And say, God, listen, help me to weave through these things. Help me to reflect. Help me to see what is necessary, what needs to be happening. Because you know what? We can all think we're on the right path. We can all think things are aligning. We can all think this is what I must be going towards. But is it what God wants? You see, the reality for Saul is that he had a lot of training, a lot of experience, a lot of skills. He was intelligent. He was passionate. He had all of these. He was Hebrew by lineage. He was a Pharisee. He was on the Sanhedrin. He was a Roman citizen. And by the way, everything that he thought was aligning for his plan, God used for something Saul could have never predicted. So it's not to say that whatever it is you've worked towards and whatever you've achieved isn't meaning it's going towards something, but it might not be what you think. And sometimes holding back and waiting and reflecting over these things and saying, God, what have I been doing and why? And last but not least, waiting gives you the time to seek God's will and direction and actively work towards what we believe He has called us to. Waiting is important. You see, we can move forward and we can think, I have my goals and I have my things, and surely this is what all this is working towards, and this is what I want to do. But is that what God wants? Is that what God's plan is for our lives? Is that the path, the direction He has for us? Waiting gives us that time, that necessary time to seek God's will. You know, I question, day one of waiting, did Saul sit there just angry and mad and think about everything he had accomplished and how could have I landed here, and this is ridiculous and I'm helpless and what can I do? And by day two, what was his mindset? And by day three, was he sitting there saying, okay, Jesus, I heard you. What do you want from me? I'll tell you, for some of us, it may take a little more than 3 days just to get us ready to really hear God's will and God's purpose and God's plan for our lives. Because for some of us, we might resist it for a long time. We might try to reason with God and tell him why we think something else should be better. But waiting is necessary so we can seek his will, his direction. And by the way, that seeking isn't in a lazy fashion of just, well, I'm just sitting here waiting. Whenever God decides to tell me what he wants. No. You see where it says, and actively working towards what we believe God is calling us to do. There's some work involved. But listen, that comes through prayer. Lots and lots of prayer and listening as you pray. And it's amazing when you enter that type of prayer where you start telling God and you start asking God. And by the way, in that asking, I know how this goes, okay? Just go with me here. You start asking, but you're really telling him what you think. But it's amazing. If you keep up that prayer, slowly you'll start catching yourself. That's God's way of speaking to you. Sometimes people go, how does God speak to me? Keep talking to him and realize how ridiculous you sound. That's God telling you, okay, that's ridiculous. I have another plan. I have another purpose. But that comes through diligent prayer. And time in his word is full of direction and purpose for our lives. And this last one, seeking wise counsel. You know what I've learned? When we have a certain goal, we have an intent, a purpose, a plan, we like to find people who agree with us. We do. It's just much better to have people tell us what we want to hear. We like it a whole lot more. And so if this is what sounds good to us, and if these are our passions and these are our desires, we want to find people that go, yeah, that's great, and encourage us that way. Seek wise counsel. And don't resist it. The people who might question you a little bit. The people might say, why? Well, what do you think? Well, are you sure? Have you prayed about it? That's wise counsel. Oh, I know. In that moment, I said, this is so negative. But see, Jesus was about to send some very wise counsel to Saul. And he needed Saul ready to hear what Ananias was going to say. And day one, Saul, I'm sure, wasn't ready to hear wise counsel. Saul had his plans, his desires, his goals and successes to achieve. He was on his way to the top, and nobody was going to stop him. But Jesus did. And Jesus said, you're going to sit and you're going to wait. You're going to wait for my instructions. And I think in that time, God prepared Saul's heart for wise counsel. The counsel that Saul was going to need. Sometimes we can arrogantly think that, well, I prayed about it, and I read my Bible, and I know the answer. And sometimes that may be true. But you want to know what I know is so special and so important about the family of God? Is how he uses other believers to speak into our lives. To help us see things that we cannot see as clearly. And by the way, I need that too. We all do. Wise counsel. This morning, as we look at this rather strange command, just sit and wait. Just stop. I know you think you got this all figured out. I know you think you're on your way, but I want you to just stop and wait. How many of us are in a place in our lives, I don't know what it is you may be going through. I don't know what it is you may be looking towards, but how many of us need to take that command personally and say, you know what? I just need to stop and wait. I need to do some reflection. I need to consider what I've been doing and why I've been doing it. I need to be praying. I need to be seeking God's will. I need to be seeking God's direction because that's what I want in my life. You know, our reality is that we can all charge through. We can all be busy. We can all make what we think are good things happening. But you want to know what I think is probably one of the biggest dangers? I'm going to share with you what I think is, hear me when I say this. One of the biggest dangers is that we are so busy running after our own pursuits and our own goals and what we think should happen, and Jesus doesn't stop us. Consider that for a moment. Consider if Jesus had not stopped Saul. If Jesus hadn't stopped Saul, we wouldn't have seen the church transform the way that it did. We wouldn't have seen the gospel carried to Corinth and to Galatia and to Ephesus. We wouldn't have the majority of the New Testament if Jesus had not stopped Paul. And by the way, I keep saying Saul and I say Paul, that's because Jesus' plan for Saul was to give him a new name and a new life and a new purpose. And you know what I believe? I believe that if we are really, honestly willing to wait on God and to seek His will and seek His face and His direction, then He has a new name and a new purpose for each one of us. If we just learn to wait on Him. If we'll learn to just say, you know what, God, what do you want? This morning, whether it's our students, whether it's our leaders, whether it's old or younger, all of us face new chapters in life. We all do. Some of you might be a little older, and you're facing some chapters you'd rather not face. But will we learn the benefits of waiting on God, no matter what chapter, what new page we're about to turn? Will we choose to wait before Jesus stops whatever pursuit that we're on? I know that for all of you graduates, the next chapter for life and life for you is exciting. But my prayer and my encouragement to each one of you is learn to wait on God. No matter what it is that you think, no matter what you've achieved, look at it and say, God, you've allowed me to achieve so much. What is your plan for all of this? I might see this as your plan, but God, really, what is your plan? How are you going to use these things? But not just for our youth, for each one of us. God has gifted us given us certain talents and gifts for a reason and for a purpose. God places us in circumstances and in situations for a purpose. And by the way, I get it. Some of them, we'd rather He had given us a different place and a different purpose. But if we'd all be willing to say, God, I don't know why I'm here. God, I don't know why I'm doing this. But God, you've placed me here. What is your will? How can you use me? God had an amazing plan for Saul. And I know He has an amazing plan for each one who is willing to humbly wait on Him and surrender to His will. This morning, maybe this was geared towards our graduates. I don't know. Maybe it was geared towards our youth leaders who are entering a new chapter in life. But really, the message is there for all of us. The importance of waiting on God, seeking Him, seeking His will for our lives. This morning, as we close in a word of prayer, and that is my prayer for all of you, is that you will learn what it is to wait on God. We're not going to close in a song this morning, but I do want to ask you to lift up Brenda Church. She's not here with us this morning, but if you will lift her up in prayer, she's heading out on a missions trip this week. And she needs prayer for this chapter, her life. It might be a small chapter, but a missions trip is life-changing. And so my prayer is that for each one of you, that you'll learn to wait on God for what that chapter is and what His plan is for your life. Will you stand with me? Brian, will you close us in a word of prayer?